pushed back in. Yep, cool. Just gonna line things back up. No, let's do that. No, I probably don't want to. Yeah. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Then just gonna let's see, does this do? Just wanna see. Didn't mean to do that. But maybe I can still do it here. Fuck, I'll do it here. Fuck it. We'll just go with that. Alright, we're gonna get started. First, I just wanted to see, um, might actually, sorry, quickly just, yeah, it's a bit better. Just wanted to see, because probably not going to get anything from ABC specifically, but I wanted to see, um, tomorrow we've got happening, I'm pretty sure, around at least every main city in Australia. We've got the Sovereignty Day of Recognition and solidarity with First Nation peoples, mainly First Nation Australians. Uh, I believe it's because of the attack on Camp Sovereignty that this event sort of started, but I think it's getting sort of catching ground and uh, getting popular among people as just sort of a day of, again, solidarity and recognition. Times are pretty hard for folks at the moment, so I can understand why that. I'm interested, I want to get back to, I just want to have a little look at the um, our friends over in the cookers aisle, uh, how they're reacting to what's going on, because I don't know. Let me just. Yep. So getting back. All right. So, yep, whatever. Left versus right. I haven't really looked into this Lozzie B person. It's a lot about Charlie Kirk. Um, the thing I don't get with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, right, is like they're trying to make him out to be like this big youth, like this beloved youth leader, this beloved like voice of the masses for the youth, of like the conservative youth even. Uh, and he, look, they say like, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but and he's dead now, but he wasn't that real good of a communicator in my opinion. Like he was kind of shit. I don't know. I don't know why they're giving him so much. I guess it's just because he got killed, right? So like they got to give him the Jesus Messiah treatment. Um, oh, yep, classic. More American, Australians talking on Americans. Oh, hang on. confirming the delusions of mentally ill people and pumping them full of cross-sex hormones was always going to be a serious negative consequence. I'm pretty sure most of these shooters weren't trans. I might be wrong. There's so many shooters in America at this point that like you could say Denver shooter and it could actually mean like 20 other people. But anyway, we should we should be banned for using words like replacement. Is this chick for real? Couldn't get us on actual hate speech, so want to ban us for the word replacement. I don't even know who that is. Familiar? Well, yeah, fucking Matt Walsh. I was expecting at least something. I guess that's the thing. They're really carried away with what's this? See you there. I'll explain my involvement in the March for Australia and what's happening next. Q&A. Hang on. Where's where's this place? I don't want to. Might just also get rid of this while we're here. Hide that. Okay, so it's in Brisbane. Okay, interesting. Still more Charlie Kirk stuff. And for Indian sex, Jesus, notices, still noticing. Doing a lot of noticing. We're noticing who may have killed someone. This old gathering to celebrate and being assassinated. How are we supposed to share country with these people? If you do politics, you might. If you do politics, you might end up like Charlie. If you ignore politics, you might end up like the girl on the train. Well, I think that I'm going to take from that they're not really occupied at all with what's going to be happening tomorrow. I think they're pretty well preoccupied with the whole assassination of Charlie Kirk. And from what I understand, we still don't know who's done it unless something has changed on that front in the recent, I don't know. I might even have a quick look just to see. Uh, what would you need to search for that? Um, Charlie Kirk. I spelled assassin wrong. Assassination suspect. New images. Yep, so they still don't know. Or, like, they still don't have him. Cool, cool. Just checking in. Seeing how they're doing on that front. Alright. Yeah, it's. Wait, why is Ben Shapiro? Did Ben Shapiro get assassinated? We will never stop debating and discussing. We will never stop standing up for what America is and what she should be. And we will never let Charlie's voice die. To those who would stop us, I have two words: fuck you. Well, I think that's new for Ben. He normally doesn't really swear, doesn't he? All I've seen is people saying he's center right as if he wasn't a white supremacist, even if they are trans. It's such a minuscule amount compared to the number of cis shooters. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, there's always that. You always want to sort of. I personally think it's always best to not even give in to the idea that they're genuine when they say that these shooters are trans, because most of the time I find that they're like it'll be someone completely, as best as you could say, it was like an apolitical attack. It was literally just like their mental health decline, and I guess you could probably say more. That's got a bit more to do with the male loneliness epidemic and all that. We will never stop debating and discussing. Is actually hilarious. Oh yeah, Yeah, yeah. Because let's I want to see, does he actually say
Now,
anything separate?
it's still up to us. I saw a lot of rumors online today. I was made aware of this by my team that I canceled
You can tell
some sort of college tour.
he's trying to look really distraught and sad, which maybe, I mean, they did know each other.
That's bullshit. I saw those rumors. They are false. I will be coming to college campuses, many of them this year. So will we all, I am sure, because we're Americans and we're not going to be deterred. Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that bloodstained microphone where Charlie left it.
What the fuck? I love when these people
And to those,
oh, I love when these people try and affect like prose and like poetic language use and like colorful flowery language, like we're gonna pick back up, what was it, we're gonna pick up the blood-stained microphone.
Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that bloodstained microphone.
I mean, it probably definitely is bloodstained. There was a lot of blood. I didn't see like the full unadulterated video, but it definitely um there was a lot of blood. There was a lot of blood, I'll say that. Um, no, just what else does he say?
Where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate, who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely, we are not going to stop. And I have two words: fuck you. We
Fuck, he is mad.
will not stop telling the truth. We will never stop telling the truth. We will never stop debating and discussing. We will never stop standing up for what America is and for what she should be. And we will never let Charlie Kirk's voice die. Goodbye to my friend, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing for your family and for your country and for all of us.
Oh yeah, all right. Oh, I mean, I guess there's definitely I would imagine like they to some extent they were probably actual friends, right? Like they did, they were all the same kind of scum doing the same shit around each other. So like, I guess you become friends in amongst that, right? I just need to quickly. Mm, yep. Oh, yep. Cool. Oh. It's been funny seeing the vast swaths of Mormons on my Facebook feed because I'm ex-Mormon, especially the American ones, all mourning Charlie Kirk when everyone else on my feed is cracking jokes. That would be a very funny like getting the both sides of the argument, sort of thing, the both sides of the emotional response spectrum. Uh, Something because there was a whole thing where apparently they were talking about the similarities or differences, I can't remember, between this was before he got shot, before like the question before his last question was like the first question was about Mormons and Protestants and how like their similarities and whatnot. And he was arguing that, he was trying to like he was trying to smooth it in, like, don't worry guys, we're very similar. We can look to each other as like having the same base values. And it was really like, really? Protestants and Mormons? Um, okay. Actually, I just want to quickly see, because we're going to be looking at a lot of old Becky Freedom. And I just want to see, just, yeah, how she's been. That's her husband. I don't want to do that. We've seen that one. We've seen that one. Bruce Shillingsworth is a vile human being, one less racist. I mean, my opinion on those claiming this is a psyop. A man died today, father, or husband. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Whatever. Today is a sad day for right-wing politics. Okay, so it's pretty, yeah, it's, we know. We know where she's at. All right. So I wanted to, I've been wanting to watch this. I watched a little bit of it at the beginning because, but then I got tired because it was late. And I think it was like the day before, literally March for Australia. And I was doing it as like a bit of research. And so this is a podcast that Bec Freedom, who is one of the Sydney organizers for, uh, for the March for Australia. Let me just.
Alliance.
Jesus, there you go. There she is. Let me quieten it. Oh God, they. So this is also on Rumble. It's a podcast that she had that she sort of finished up, I guess. This is the last episode of it that you can find at least. It was a thing that she finished up at the beginning of this year. Um, and she's talking. Do we get the headline here with Matt Treehey from the National Workers Alliance. Now, this particular guy was, what would you say? He was going to be the organizer for Melbourne for the for the March for Australia, but for whatever reasons he left. Oh, who knows? We don't know. At least I reached out and asked Beck Freedom. She just said that he left for his own reasons. Bec Freedom really does look like the average Mackay and ice addicted. Um, well, Richards, yeah, yeah. Look, there's only so much you can sort of publicly say, before you can get actually in trouble. Both on a matter of like, I don't know, the platforms we speak on, and also just public defamation. Because I'm not con I'm personally of the opinion this is like a minor conspiracy. I personally think she does a bit of Photoshop or like filter or whatever. Because I saw a photo of her at March for Australia and it didn't look very flattering, but it looked very revealing. It'd be really hard for me to find it now because it was like back during, and yeah. But nonetheless, this is a podcast she does with Matt Treehey, who left being the organizer for the Melbourne one, for the Melbourne March for Australia, and was replaced by Ozpill, the kid who is the grandson and son to real estate moguls, very wealthy real estate moguls. It's all connected. So I want to watch this because the National Workers Alliance. I'm a fan of workers. I'm a fan of workers' rights, national workers' rights. Like across the country, even across the world. I think, fuck it, let's go hardball. So I want to hear what he has to say. Um, I'll be honest, I have done a little bit of research, as I've said, and he's a bit crazy. But we're going to pretend to take this in good faith. I don't think I know Matt Treahy. I obviously know Ozpil and Beck. Yeah, they're the more well-known. Like you're gonna find out very quickly. He's an old retro um, Nazi. He's from the old times. Like I think he even directly makes a comment about the fact he doesn't know how to use social media.
Is going to be a controversial episode that goes into one of the mass immigration crisis.
Again, so we've got a guy who is the lovely, who is the leader and founder or whatever of the National Workers Alliance. So I'm here to hear about some shit related to helping workers. Let's go. Immigration,
We've
though.
got Jessie with us as well.
Her husband.
Every now and then I may have to run off the screen. I do apologise for that, but I've got three. Got a feeling this one you will find.
Yep, cool. Yep.
From
Hurry it up. Let's get him. We got an intro stinger for fucking Ozpil of all people, of course.
Australians.
Come on.
There's also given us record numbers of
Move it along. We've heard it all before. I just want
why Australians
puppy.
aren't replacing themselves with
oh wait, is Matt Trahey the NWA? Which NWA? If you mean the National Workers Alliance, then yeah, that's who Matt Trahey, I don't know how to say his name. I think we'll hear it soon. That's what he is. Yeah.
So I'm going to bring Matt and Jessie on screen now. All right, hey guys, how you?
Terrifying look. So my immediate thought is this guy who is Matt looks like he's from the bikie gang in Housos. It's scary, but I respect it. I respect his choices. No, that's not what I don't respect his choices. Why did I say that? But he just looks like a cartoon character to me. He literally looks like Angry from Angry. What's his name? Angry. Oh, I can't remember. He's the head gang. He's the head bikie gang guy in Housos. Uh, Angry something. And he actually is from a punk band called Rose Tattoo. Um, they look the exact same.
You going?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. G'day.
All right, so we'll start off. We'll get right into it.
Beautiful
A lot of
chemistry.
you have seen Matt all over Facebook, although he's not personally on Facebook. We'll get him to give an introduction to who he is, why he does what he does, and
If you tell me to imagine what the founder of NWA looks like, it would be exactly that. I know what you mean. He doesn't fit any particular stereotypes that might come to mind.
yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Firstly, thanks for having me on. As you said, I don't have a big social media footprint, so I appreciate the opportunity to
That's a bit better.
perhaps set the record straight about things that are said about me, who I am, and why I do what I do. I'm a tradesman who's been watching the fabric of this society be undermined my whole life. When I was younger, and I'm a little bit older.
For my entire life, I've watched the fabric of our society crumble. Oh God, it's the same shit. And then I'm sure he's going to elaborate now and get into specifics, but still, it takes a type of guy. It really takes a type of guy.
Older than
We gotta let him talk a bit more.
I watched the disaster of the Whitlam era, and things have been unacceptable for many, many years. And it became intolerable to me during the whole COVID disaster. And I just had to get active in some form. So I started.
Oh, so okay, this wasn't even a thing before COVID. Hang on, let's just do a quick National Workers Alliance. Yeah. No. Get rid of all that. I don't want that. National Workers Alliance. Oh, I don't want actually their page. Sorry, that's not what I want. Can we get a Wikipedia? Fire politics. Apparently not. That's okay. Yeah, we'll just quickly go to their about page. According to them, they are yeah. So Australian Nationalist Organisation for the Preservation of Western Culture and Identity. Just fill in the blanks there. Workers, advocating for the working class and families, no taxation without representation. Which, by the way, like on its own, like obviously that sounds nice or whatever, but let's be real again. The important bit, the previous part, we can't do any of the worker shit until we kick out all the non-whites. Alliance, an association based on similar goals and values, unity is our strength, but we can't be in unity with non-whites. Is that all they have for an about page? That's interesting. Hang on, contact. Okay, so it's not a very thorough website.
Started off in the freedom movement, and it was clear to me that the freedom movement was very fractured. There were so many different ideologies involved, and we had the critical mass of numbers, but I could see that it was never going to get the result that we need. And so I moved away from that. And the last year or so, I started an organisation called the National Workers Alliance. People call me, and I find it interesting that you say that this is a controversial episode. If you start to question the narrative, you will be attacked from every angle. And that's what's happened to me. And it doesn't really concern me. But what's said about me, they call me a Nazi, which is just an outright lie. I've never been a member of a neo-Nazi organisation. They call me a fascist.
Therefore, can't be a Nazi, never been a member of an organisation of neo-Nazis. You know, look, man, you have to be a part of the 1930s and 1940s. What was it again? NSW. What was it again? The National Workers Socialist Party. Oh fuck, I can't remember now. But you know, like, can only be a fascist if you're a part of a group.
And I'll put my political position out there, and I'll go into this a little bit later if we've got time. I'm not a fascist because fascism is either one party or one person.
Yeah, true, Richards. He's never been a member of a Nazi or because he just created one. Yeah, I had that in the back of my head too, actually. Like it's very convenient to say you've never been a part of one when I could just go and make my own. Bugger it. He's not a member, he's the leader. Yeah, my man. You aren't just a member of the party, you're the goddamn leader of it.
Rule. And I believe you have to have a contest of ideas. I don't want one party or one person in control of the society that my family live in.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards. Did you know we print everything you need to brand your business? We print signs and flyers, totes, tees, mugs and more. Right now, new customers can get 15% off with code NEW15 because if you need it, we print it at vistaprint.com.au.
This strange new device could produce endless off-the-grid power.
Please stop.
Did you know that there's a
Thank you. Please. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Going on.
The system I want, the current democratic system across all European nations or countries founded by Europeans has failed. That's really clear. we are not true democracies. We have, it's more like a plutocracy or an oligarchy where those who have money and power can obtain control of our nations.
Wild ideas to be saying at this
It
time.
simply is failing on every level. And the only way that I see the people getting some sort of control is a form of direct democracy. And there's a lot involved in that. Direct democracy, something similar to the model used in Switzerland, but depending on how much time we've got to discuss, perhaps I'll come back to that a little bit later. I'll come back to
My
what I see
brother's
as
going
the
off on
political solution. Because under
tangents.
the current system, it's failed us. We don't have a say, and that's very, very clear. I'm an evidence and data-based person. If someone's going to tell me something, I want them to show me the scientific studies or the evidence to justify their position.
Is there even such a person who doesn't consider themselves a data and statistics-based person? Like this is I feel like I have heard this now both in person and online, in text, in voice, whatever, by so many people at this point who then continue on to show me a clear reason as to how they are the exact opposite. This is such a mute statement now.
That hasn't been done for many, many years in this country. And as I said, I started in the Whitlam era and I watched the disaster from that period on. So I started the National Workers Alliance. The National Workers Alliance is, when I say nationalist, I'm a declared nationalist. I am.
Well, there you go. There you have it, folks. I love it when nationalists get really finicky, really touchy on being called a Nazi. And like for sure there is, I get, or a fascist, and I guess there is some cases to say where there's someone who is just a nationalist and isn't one of the other two. But I struggle to think of an example. I mean, I guess maybe like England in the Second World and after the Second World War, with like Winston Churchill, but then depending on who you ask, you would argue that he was kind of fascistic in sort of ways. So like I just find it funny that it's like I'm not a Nazi, but I am nationalist. I am a nationalist, and I will move on from there. I'd say Ho Chi Minh is an example. Yeah, but like I feel like again, and I've had this conversation where it's like the sort of more communist uprisings that we saw in like well the East in just as a general, you know, there were definitely nationalist attitudes to them, but you could I guess argue that there was a different I don't know if I even want to necessarily call them nationalist. I feel like I would want to give them a different term because I feel like the term nationalist is so indicative of, just everything that we're seeing nowadays with like America and what we're seeing here with this guy. Like, I definitely know what you're saying. Definitely know what you're saying. I feel like it's almost like we need a new term for that because it's just like nationalist is just immediate. Like, yeah.
Am advocating for the rights of people of European descent. For some reason, every ethnic group.
Well, no, Richards, it's the same as how some Scottish call themselves nationalists. True, true. Actually, yeah, that's a good point because then that's the whole thing in Scotland where if yeah you're a nationalist, you're pro the independence of Scotland from Britain and from England and all that stuff. When it's being used by an occupied nation, it's about independence. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that's the difference of context that leads into the use. The same as how Republican in an island is about sovereignty, Republican in America is conservative. Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, well also Republican or being a republic used to be um used to be a bit more used to imply like a lot more of a distinctive difference between like well like a republic versus like a democracy. So yeah, I mean a lot of these terms have sort of been bastardized in some cases or stretched in other cases or shown to be positive demonstrations in others. I mean, it's sort of also how like libertarian used to be a left-wing ideology more like with anarchists, and now it's more associated with the right wing, with anti-gov or just anti-big gov, pro-business people. So I think that's definitely true. I think as well like with say like Ho Chi Minh, um, like obviously he would have been a nationalist in the independence fighting against colonialism uh, idea. I think as well though, if you could talk to him in another setting where like he wasn't having to worry about the Vietnamese and Vietnam so much, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still pretty like internationalist, you know, in like the what more communist sense. The one thing fascists are great at is co-opting language to fit their own cause. Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's the destruction of language ultimately. They are very anti-language.
In the world is entitled to have organisations representing their interests, but if you are from a European background, for some reason you're not allowed to. We are watching our countries being destroyed.
I find that really funny because like there are actually a lot of like Anglo-Aussie orgs out there. I don't know if they necessarily go by literally those names, but like there would be like a Commonwealth men or some shit. I don't fucking know. I don't know anything off the top of my head, but like I mean, God's sakes, you could argue that the old what was it? The Lions Club was kind of like an Anglo club where it was with a lot of old white men, and then they sort of opened it up to the women, opened it up to the young. I guess it's now opened up to the non-white, but I can guarantee there are examples of more European-focused groups in Australia, representing their interests and whatnot.
Destroyed and undermined.
Yeah.
Workers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
spent my
100%.
whole life paying taxes. My father paid taxes for 70 years. My grandfathers are working class. The workers have been betrayed by our governments for decades now. And the example of the catastrophic response for the unions over COVID is just a symptom of that. Coming goes back to 1975. When the Whitlam government in 1975 signed the Lima Declaration and sent our manufacturing overseas, the union said nothing. When the Whitlam government signed the FATA, the Foreign Acquisitions and Takeover Act, allowing foreign entities to purchase Australian assets, corporations, farmland, dairies, the union said
What?
nothing. When the Whitlam government
Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm younger than both of the other two here, Beck and Jesse, who I'm pretty sure is her husband. Um, do these guys even know who fucking Whitlam is? Like, I, were they even alive at the time? Like, I definitely wasn't, because but this has all been because of Whitlam. It's all because of Whitlam. Whitlam came in like what 1970 or 1969. I can't remember the exact year. He got his 2, 3 years, barely even got to finish a proper first fucking term because, well, depending on who you believe, either, he just wasn't a good leader and thus had to leave, or there was a bit of shady shit being done by America, England, mining companies, etc. But that's a whole thing. Um, he didn't even get to finish a proper term. He then leaves. But the few things he did get to do, which like was just to drag Australia out of the fucking 14th century or like 18th century into the 20th century, and these motherfuckers have never gotten over it ever since. Like, I mean, this guy may have, for all we know, could have been alive at the time of Whitlam. I mean, what's that, like, in 1970? So, like, it is, so 55 years ago now. Like, yeah, okay, maybe he was just about born. But, like, It's been it's been more than half a century, and these people have not gotten over it. And they've sieved, they've they bit their time, they waited, they spread it amongst their children, their friends, and their communities. This racist, misogynistic, homophobic, now transphobic, and um, so many other forms of bigotry. It just it never was dealt with. It was just taken out of like taken out of the driver's seat, but it's just sat in next the next passenger seat and just been seething the whole time.
Repealed the Immigration Restriction Act and introduced the Racial Discrimination Act in 1975, allowing for cheap labour. The unions said nothing. So the unions have betrayed us. So nationalism, workers, advocating for the working class, alliance.
Bro, I'm not a Nazi, guys. I'm not a Nazi, but let me tell you all about my Nationalist Workers' Party. Let me tell you about my Nationalist Workers' Party. Some might even say, hey, look, I'm what's the term? I'm willing to hear out the socialists, the lefties on some of their more genuine economic issues, Yeah, the bosses are making too much. Maybe I'll call myself a nationalist socialist instead.
Is a
I
pushback
didn't realize
against the
it's 2.5
diversity is
hours.
our strength narrative, which seems like decades they've been pushing that on us, which is just another lie. There is not one scientific study, there is not one society throughout history that has benefited from diversity or multiculturalism.
Yeah, we'll call it nationalism with socialist characteristics.
Human beings are tribal, and
Oh
it is
God.
an intuitive, instinctual desire.
I love when their argument, the tribal like appeal with the racist argument is like the real gist of it is like so come on, you and me, we both agree on this, we both agree we're just monkeys and we're stupid and we sort of just act on impulse and thus we can't help ourselves, so they get to have their space over there, we get to have our space over here, because otherwise we won't be able to help it. Like, it just shows that they really think very lowly of, honestly, everyone. Like, everyone, including, maybe not themselves. I don't know. I guess it depends on how depressed they are. He's not a National Socialist. He's a social nationalist. So, if you, well, I like that. That's good. A so nat, a so Nazi, or something like that. That's good.
For self-preservation. We have an in-group preference. This diversity is our strength narrative is, I'll put it
Yep.
in a
Yep.
way that I wish I
Yep.
could trust government.
Oh.
I wish that what the government was telling me was correct. I
Mm.
wish diversity was a strength. I wish that we're all the same and that we could have a cohesive society. And
Wait, what? Wait, that didn't make sense. I wish we could have. I wish we could trust our government. I wish we could trust what they say. I wish that diversity was a strength and that we were all just the same. Sometimes it just feels like not even worth responding sometimes.
it was working as per that they keep telling us, but it's simply not the truth. And when you look at what is the role of the government, obviously you have your infrastructure, education, medical system, but to me, the most important role of the government is community safety. We have reached a point where policies introduced by government are putting the citizens of every Western European country, every country founded by Europeans, at risk, beyond question. Crime rates are up. And they will tell us that correlation does not equal causation, and they won't make the link between immigration and crime when evidence and data.
First off, we're actually going through a pretty good time when it comes to crime. Like, in the sense of it's becoming it's safer. It's becoming safer and safer. But fuck it, who cares?
Shows that there is a direct correlation between immigration and crime, and that is the biggest issue facing
Immigrants to Australia committing crime. Now, hey, that's just the Google search that migrants in Australia are statistically less likely to commit serious crimes than the native-born population. But don't trust Google. I want to find something a bit more reliable than that. Do they have their own ethnicity and crime? Wait, this is back in 1999. This is so fucking outdated. Never mind. Whatever. It's pretty. I've managed to find a 62-year-old Australian MMA fighter called Matt Tree. If this is him, the CTE would explain his opinions. I mean, look at him. Look at him. I wouldn't be surprised as well. Check the age and whatnot because yeah, not the age. Sorry, check the image because yeah, I mean that. Just based off those details wouldn't surprise me because this guy kind of gives off like that would do that kind of MMA fighting stuff.
Western civilization. It's the biggest issue we've ever faced.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. That was lovely, Matt.
Oh, sorry. I'll be honest, I'm still trying to share it out.
I mean, I'll flesh that out a bit if you want, because if you look at, it seems like.
To be fair, I've been in those situations where it feels like, but you're just not listening. Do I not matter to you? Am I a joke? Am I a fucking joke to you, mate? Come on. Fine, I'll just flesh it out for you. Though I do appreciate that he goes on these big long rants and all they have to say is, yep, couldn't agree more with that. I can find pages with his stats, but I'm searching for a photo. Last fight was 20 years ago, though, so he'll look different. Yeah, true, he'll look pretty different. I mean, you might see, like, I mean, if he has tattoos on or whatever, you might be able to spot these similar looking tattoos on his arms. That'd be amazing,
In
though, if it was.
Victoria, there is a stabbing or a machete attack or a home invasion, violent home invasion. Well, we know there's 16 home invasions, aggravated burglaries a day in Victoria now. A car is stolen every 20 minutes. There was a 13.7% increase in
What?
all crimes last year. The year before it was 10.4%. So we've had a 25% increase in crime in 2 years. Yeah. And the media will talk about the judicial system, parental controls. They will not address the root cause.
You found a pic that looks like him without a beard and a few less tats. Well, there you go. If you want, you can try sending it to me.
Of it, which is immigration, and that's we are governed by traitors who are putting the safety of the citizens at risk.
Yeah. So just on what you were speaking about then, I've got a quick clip that I actually posted today that you go through a few incidents. I'll just play that now and then we'll get more into the crime statistics and things that have gone up.
Are you angry yet? What about when you read about the 25-year-old Australian woman who was raped by 5 Africans in Paris.
It's just crime, 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 crime. Fear, fear, scared, scared. I'm terrified. Black people scaring me. Black people did this bad thing. Black people did that bad thing. Oh my God. It's almost like things happen. Like, I feel like it would be unfair of me to say that it's getting to the point where they're literally dragging up every single individual story of an incident that happens, that we at least have some sort of enough of a story too that you can narrativize it, fill in the dots. These people can fill in the dots for themselves to write for their audience, and like they just hype these up as if these are what are happening all the time. It's like, but this you're just telling a story that has happened now. That doesn't mean that this is going to happen 20 times again. It's just, it's like people aren't able to get their fear factor fix from corporate media anymore enough that they have to go to these people just to like jack them full of anxiety.
And you understand that 77% of the rapes committed in Paris are done by less than 4% of the population who are immigrants.
Oh, this is in Paris, not even it's this France. It's not even Australia. Sorry, mate. What happened to only caring about Australia? Okay. It's a big country over there. A lot of things happen. I don't know what to tell you, bro.
Or the 45% increase in rape in Sweden from 2008 to 2018. How is multiculturalism working out for Western nations? I thought diversity was a strength. What about Melbourne doctor Ashley Gordon, 32 years of age, who was murdered by immigrant youths who were on bail at the time? Or 28-year-old medical student William Taylor, who was killed by immigrant youths who were on bail, apprehended and given bail again?
Well, I don't know any shit about that. But what is the term? What's the phrase? Never let a tragedy go to waste. That's what it is. They never let a tragedy go to waste. They've always got something that they can quickly jump in with. Like they always can throw this into another part of their narrative, their story that they want to tell. Let me just. There we go.
Or 16-year-old Declan Cutler, stabbed 56 times by 8 immigrant youths, 2 of whom were on bail. They then returned, stomped on his head, and stole his shoes while he lay bleeding to death. Not angry? And people tell me that white people commit crimes as well, and there is nothing we can do about it, which are coping mechanisms, and a failure to address per capita and group averages, and to recognise patterns. But it's easy to say there's nothing we can do about it and to stay silent, because you wouldn't want to be regarded as a racist or a bigot. People are getting raped, stabbed and murdered right across Western nations by immigrant demographics that are vastly overrepresented in crime statistics. It's a failure of immigration policy. If you're not angry, perhaps you should be, because justice will only come through righteous anger.
Oh, right, yeah. I've DM'd you with the MMA pic on Instagram. All right. Yeah. Can I open this up? Is that what I meant to do? Oh, that works. Let me. Yeah. I'd say that's him. That definitely. Oh, that's right. You can't scroll there. Definitely looks like him to me. And he's got very similar tattoos. Granted, yeah, as you said, doesn't have as much here, and obviously doesn't have the beard. But I'd say so.
All right. So I think the comment that I got on that post, which I got 2 or 3 times, I think it was what about the white people that commit crime? So obviously there's a lot that you can fill in that. I've just got to run off to the baby. But yeah, you able to take off from that?
Yeah, I'll qualify what I said about Paris, because I was hoping that Paris would start to get people to question we've got a 25-year-old Australian girl who had her life ruined by being raped by 5 Africans. And when I say,
fuck me, man, it's just, did you think, no, never mind. Because like it once again it really adds to their fear of like they think that this is like intentional shit on the other people's behalf. Like they really think that these people are like, yeah, we're gonna get the white girl. Like, I mean, maybe, but even then, that once again shows that then they're racist, and then it's like, well, then, let's not be racist. Um, it's this inability to be able to like they just see themselves as a part of like the hive mind of whites. Or like I don't know, Australian whites, European whites, like whatever, depending on how deep this guy's willing to make it. I mean, he did say Western in the on his website, so
say that 77% of the rapes are committed by immigrants, I've got to qualify that 77% of solved rapes.
had a bit of a lisp there. I don't know if that was intentional.
Just to be clear on that. And the immigrants, some say the demographic's 4%, some say it's 10, 12%. But there's a vast overrepresentation of immigrants in crime statistics right across Europe. If you look at Sweden, 95% of the assault rapes are committed by men of foreign origin. 45% increase in rape. As I said, Algerians are overrepresented in rape in Switzerland by a factor of 122. So we have a problem with
But isn't this just a reason to like, okay, those particular groups or whatever are having problems over there, maybe they like there's that's an indication that there's an inequity of resources. Oh wait, right, yeah, I'm talking to a nationalist. Fuck. What do you mean? They should just stop being monkeys or some shit. I don't know. It's probably what he's thinking.
Islamic immigration into Western Europe nations. Denmark, there's been a 100% increase in rape from 2012 to 2020. That's 8 years. In Norway, 51% of the rapes are committed by 6% of the population who are immigrants. This is all, and this is every statistic I give is from government sources. If you want to,
but we don't trust the government at the same time. But like,
check what I'm saying. There's a website called The Imported Rape of Europe.
well, ain't that? I wonder what the inclinations of those folks would be. The imported rape of Europe. I wonder who is writing that up.
And they list the sources. So it's either The Imported Rape of Europe. There's a website called Statista, which is one of the largest data harvesting websites on the internet. And I'm a subscriber to Statista, and they use government sources. When I use the figures from England, it's from the ONS, the Office of National Statistics. So this is what is astounding to me, because these figures are readily available. They are publicly published figures. So if you go back to Norway, in Oslo between 2006 and 2009, every single solved rape was committed by a man of foreign origin. Finland, a figure came out just the other day. Finland, on average, 3.3 Finns per 10,000 are sentenced for sexual assault. If you look at Finns of Afghanistan.
Sorry, I just want to remind again, we aren't, I came here to talk about workers. but so far we're talking about crime and immigration. What does this have to do with workers? Where does the workers part come into this?
The origin 138 per 10,000, overrepresented by a factor of 42.
It's this idea of per capita, you know, and I see so many online, so many on Twitter and social media, they can't grasp the concept of per capita, or they can't do the math and realise, you know, what it means. So that's the problem, the overrepresentation, and you know that.
I couldn't agree more. The overrepresentation in statistics does at times tend to be an issue, like the overrepresentation of Indigenous Australians in our prison system right now should rename to the NWWA, National White Workers Association. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't. I wonder if that was in order for them to keep their what is it, the non-for-profit status, because at least that's what I saw on their website. I didn't know if they are legit with that.
That's the simple answer, I think, to the question of, oh, what about whites who commit crimes? Obviously, all people commit crimes, but
all peoples. Everyone commits a crime at some stage, you know. We're just only concerned about the ones that we actually care about and the ones that we catch, you know. We all do crimes ultimately. I mean, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
You know, these are our societies, and you know,
I do love that there's this. I don't know if it's like they've thought this bit through, but it's basically like we want to deal with our own criminals. We don't want to deal with the other other world's criminals. Sorry, we want to deal with our scum of the earth.
we're more than slightly more than half the population at the moment. You know, our race. Yeah. And in America, that's the big one in America, with the black population there and the prison population there. Way
Okay. Like, it is another level to jump from the anti-immigration thing to, I think, like the black thing, because like especially with the crime stuff, that I would say that is another level, because at least there's some, I would argue, disingenuous people in this anti-immigration lot who will like pretend that they're okay with people who are non-white that already were living here or something like that. Not the indigenous, to be clear. I don't mean Aboriginals.
Overrepresented compared to their population. It's insane.
Well, you bring up prison population. The prison population is the way to judge the health of a society.
Is it?
So if you...
I'm pretty sure there is a common quote that people are often familiar with, which is you can judge the health of a society by how well they treat the lowest of them, the lowest class or whatever it is. And I feel like we're seeing that on full display here, because we've
go back to 1984 in Australia. Per 100,000 people, there were 87 Australians in prison. 87 per 100,000. The immigration in 1984 was 54,500. If you bring that forward to 2023, there are 208 Australians per 100,000 in prison. That's a 150% increase. And there is a direct correlation between the prison population and the increase in immigration, but the government won't address that.
Wait, is he saying that there's more immigrants in prison? Or that there's less immigrants in prison? I need to hear that again. It's going to take forever.
Published figures. So if you go back to Norway, in Oslo between 2006 and 2009, every single solved rape was committed by a man of foreign origin.
Wait, what? Where are we come from here?
The other day.
Population at the moment, you know, our race. Yeah. And in America, that's the big one in America, with the black population there and the prison population.
Yep.
Way overrepresented compared to their population. It's insane.
I wonder why.
Well, you bring up prison population. Prison population is the way to judge the health of a society. Okay? So if you go back to 1984 in Australia, per 100,000 people, there were 87 Australians in prison. 87 per 100,000. The immigration in 1984 was 54,500. If you bring that forward to 2023, there are 208 Australians per 100,000.
So he's saying that the amount of Australians have increased. So then what's the problem? I'm confused. I don't get it. So what, you want more immigrants in the jail, but then
in prison, that's a 150% increase. And there is a direct correlation between the prison population and the increase in immigration, but the government won't address that. And it's the same in every country who has embraced immigration. In France, it's the same. In America,
embraced immigration again, embraced immigration. They say this as if immigration as a concept only really started since like the 1950s or 60s or whatever. Like every country has embraced immigration. It's something that you borderline can't help. Like it's something that's just going to happen. Now, the levels to which you have immigrants going in and out is a different thing. But like, I also find it funny that we're talking about prison population and whatnot in relation to immigration, as if Australia wasn't literally, according to them, founded on as a penal colony. It started as prisoners and a few officers. Prisoners! Granted, they were only stealing fucking bread or a sheep, but still. Prisoners!
In the 60s, there was 200,000 prisoners in prison in America. Now it's 1.8 million, a 900% increase. So the prison population is...
By the way, no comment at all about private prison industries, because obviously in America it's a fucked system over there, and how it's in cahoots with the justice system, I guess that's the legal system, isn't it? The cops and just all of it. It's all in cahoots with each other. It's all a big fucking money grab.
Is a reflection of the health of a society. If you're imprisoning more people, you have a problem. And Australia, the prison...
Wait, hang on.
Population increased 3% last year.
What was that?
Between the prison population and the increase in immigration, but the government won't address that. And it's the same in every country who has embraced immigration. In France, it's the same. In America, in the 1960s, there was 200,000 prisoners in prison in America. Now it's 1.8 million, a 900% increase. So the prison population is a reflection of the health of a society. If you're imprisoning more people, you have a problem.
Well, yes. Okay, yes. Sorry, I thought he said if you're imprisoning your own people, which I was thinking like, well, who else are you imprisoning?
In Australia, the prison population increased 3% last year. The crime statistics came out just a few weeks ago, and every single aspect of crime increased from 3% up to 10, 15, 20% for car burglary.
Hang on, no. Oh, he's probably talking Australia. I can't speak for Australia. I've only seen the Queensland statistics.
Aggravated burglary.
Oh no, not an ad. I don't want to deal with ads.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
1,000% increase in 8 years.
Yeah, it's all the violent crime. That's what they're committing here, and we'll go back to the violent crime.
The violent crime
in Australia and all over the West, and
the thing that also gets me is like, okay, across all over the West. So we're including America, which has a huge issue with gun violence and just guns being involved in any forms of violence or crime, I guess. Then you go to say like England, where they just don't have guns, but they have an issue where they are like they're killing each other with fucking like potato peelers. And then you go to Europe where everyone just half the economy of Europe, as far as the people on the ground are concerned, is just stealing shit. It's just stealing shit from tourists. And then it's like, and then Australia, granted, I know that we're having an issue again now with illegal guns becoming more accessible. I need to look more into that. But but obviously for a while, a lot of our crime, like violent crime, would have been done more with like melee weapons and whatnot. And my point being is that to then just compare it all as the West and just the crime that's happening in the West, it boggles my mind because there's at this point so many differences between each different like set of countries in what is the West that you can't really lump it all together. Like even from a charitable position.
You know, the Aussie girl in France. That's the problem. You know, a lot of people, a lot of Australians, I think.
Do you think she was targeted because she was Australian?
Know deep down that this is actually a big problem, but you know, obviously people are scared to talk about it.
Very scared. I can tell.
So they just go, "Oh, I don't see race," or they do the old MLK quote, the content of their character type thing. And
yep,
you know, I think that's what's going to harm us, and that's not their attitude. They come here with the attitude of, you know, a lot of these Indians have the attitude of they want to get reverse colonization, like they're trying to get revenge on.
I knew we were going to get there. I didn't think we were going to get it from Jesse though.
On the English for colonizing the Indians, you know, that's their attitude. They're not here to make friends with us, mate.
No one ever comes here to make friends. I mean, sure, I'm not sure that they're specifically coming in to make friends, but I don't think that every single Indian from the past, like, I don't know, whatever point you want to go off, because the Indians have been coming to Australia for a very long time. I don't think it's all been a part of some big like, we're gonna pull one up on these Anglo-tards. Joke's on them. Every Domino's and taxi driver, taxi is going to turn into Little India. We're taking over this country. Richard says, considering they want a worker-focused, closed-border, racially pure country, I think they'd love the DPRK. Yeah, guys, have you ever considered? You know, I know of I need to actually remember which is the DPRK again. There's so many initial. Yeah, North Korea. I thought so. There's, you know. Be like, hey guys, I think there's a country you guys would love. You guys would love it. There's only one thing, you'll have to get over it, but I think you can do it. It's that they're all Asian. Now, I think you can do it because you'll be a minority. You'll finally be the minority, and then everything that you're screaming about and screeching about and crying about, it'll be real. It'll actually make sense. Well, not really, but sort of. It'll still be a bit batshit crazy, but like, it'd be more relevant. I think it's also funny, like what is the term? Fear of retribution. That's what it is. The fear of retribution. These people are petrified that once non-whites basically have like the idea that they have equalish power to whites to them is seen as revenge and retribution for what white people did to them beforehand. And it's funny because in a just world, they probably would be doing that, but they're not because ultimately human beings are too kind. I find. I think human beings, um, they can't like you really need to be indoctrinated to be able to just look past that sort of humanity there. I just Yeah, the Indians are coming here so that they can reverse colonize. And that's a new one too. We used to have reverse racism, now it's reverse colonize. I like this.
Yeah,
And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
It gets back to the fundamental role of government, yeah, because we talked about, you know, the increase in all crime. But if you look at the increase in sexual assaults, yeah, in Australia, it's increased every year for the past 13 years.
Now, mind you, this is somewhat true, and this is an issue. There is an increase in sexual assaults happening, and obviously happening more towards women. But we don't want to touch on what tends to be the common denominator between all of these incidences, which is that they're men perpetrating. We're instead going to look at one of the less so common denominators, which is that they're immigrants or Indian, I guess. Which I find interesting that it's always immigrants and then they jump to Indian, which like obviously Indian is one of our biggest immigrant communities in Australia. I mean, it's going to the point as well though where like there are many generations of Indian families in Australia now. Like they've been in it, like, and they sound Aussie. They're Aussies. Like they are Aussie.
And this is government data. Every year for the last 13 years. Last year, in 2021, it was 11%, and last year I think it was 13%. So you've got a 24% increase in sexual assault in Australia in a 2-year period.
We should do something about that.
95 women a day are now sexually assaulted in Australia. This is unheard of, mate.
It is. It's
fact
horrible.
That people will attack you for trying to...
It also ignores the fact that there's been a decrease in stigma. Victims are just more likely to come forwards about SA now, so the numbers will inflate. Oh, 100%. I mean, I remember hearing about that back when I was in high school in like, I don't know what it would have been. I think I would have done legal studies in year 12. I think I did legal studies in year 12. Same reason why there's more yeah, exactly, and why there's more autism, why there's more ADHD, and all these depression, anxiety, all of it. It's the reason why all these different things we have high numbers of it now. It's a combination of both lack of stigma, so more people are willing to express it or explore it, as well as less stigma, therefore people are willing to admit to it, I guess, or acknowledge it. Or in the sense with like SA. Report it and come forward. And also another factor is like, I mean, old mate here going on about how much, Whitlam is the cause of everything that's gone wrong in Australia ever since. I mean, if I remember correctly, it was under his government that we changed the law about no fault divorce. Up until Whitlam, if you were a woman, let's say, in a divorce, you couldn't just leave the divorce if you didn't love the guy anymore, if you felt the guy was abusive. But let's say he wasn't abusive to the point where, like, straight up you've got broken bones or whatever, but you're worried that something will get worse. You still can't leave him. You had to do, there had to be a fault found until Whitlam. And at the same time of that, we also started to properly more recognize that marital rape was a thing. And so, like, that's a whole other aspect as well. Like, there are certain things that we just didn't even think was rape, that we didn't even think was rape or sexual assault, and that we now do, that we now consider. And so it's like, I think, and we haven't done as much as we could have been doing or whatever, to prevent these things from actually ever happening than we have, but then as much as we have done being able to spot it, which, progress in some respects, but it means that the statistics are going to be a lot easier to manipulate.
To question why women are getting sexually assaulted or raped is beyond belief to me. So that they'll attack the ad hominem.
Hang on. So again, why am I getting attacked? This is just saying, this is some Bob Catatier shit. Why am I getting attacked here? For just asking, it's insane how much women are getting raped. It's insane, guys. We should be able to talk about this. Oh, but I'm getting attacked. Do you think that's what it is that you're getting attacked for? Because I'm pretty sure if that's what you're getting attacked for, then you're probably like in a gentleman's club or something like that. I don't think you're at like the left-wing anti-violence towards women rallies. And also, why aren't you at those rallies? Because those rallies happen, and I don't even know why I'm saying lefty. Just like the anti-violence against women rallies. There's been heaps of that stuff. I'm pretty sure it was this year. Yeah.
Me and say, oh no, you're a fascist, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, because I'm simply questioning.
Just asking questions.
I didn't want to be in the situation of questioning government. I want to trust government. I want government to leave me alone. I want nothing to do with government. I'm happy to pay my taxes and have a safe society for our children to grow up in.
Yeah.
Giving us that.
I didn't have to do all this shit. You know, I didn't have to be a raving lunatic, like look like I've done ice and rant and rave about immigrants and Muslims and Indians. You know, I didn't want to, but yo, just can't keep the place safe. I know I'm talking about completely irrelevant shit and could be talking about more relevant stuff as to why these things are happening when I question why these things are happening. But I'm not going to do that, okay? I want you to just let me talk uninterrupted without any sort of expectation of me being correct.
Putting our women and children, our most vulnerable, are being put at risk. If you are...
This is why you're called a fascist. This is why you're called a fascist, my man.
As a society, prepared to sacrifice your women because you want to be nice, well, we are a failed
Again, this is why you're called a fascist, my brother.
society. And as men, it is our responsibility to protect the vulnerable. And if the sexual assaults weren't going up, I wouldn't be so concerned.
No, guys, seriously. I wouldn't be so concerned about all the blacks coming in if it wasn't for the fact that the sexual assault numbers were going up. It can't be the fact that we've been having non-white people come into this country for decades now, and the sexual assault numbers just so conveniently started to skyrocket as we started to be a bit more able to properly rely on information, and you know, we ran over that already. It's not like we also did that around the same time as well. So like, it just so happens to look this way. Oh God, I need to go take a piss and get grab a snack. Yous can babysit it for a moment.
home is England, yes? And I'll just give you a couple of figures that, and this is from the ONS, Office of National Statistics in England. It's on the net. You can look it up. In 2002, 2003, there were 12,295 women raped in England and Wales, yes? And that's a lot, 12,295. You come forward 20 years with a corresponding blowout in immigration in England, 67,928 in 1 year. We are talking about 186 women a day are being raped in England and Wales. Now this is it's intolerable. If you have any sense of honour, you cannot accept this. And the grooming gang scandal, I don't know if you've been following it, it's been getting a lot of press over the last few weeks. They're now suddenly realising that we've got a problem. You know, Malcolm Pearson, a member of the House of Lords, got up 2 weeks ago and talked about the 250,000 young white girls who have been groomed by Muslim grooming gangs in England in the last 25 years. And I look at this and I go, I shouldn't be questioning this because we want to be nice.
Sorry, I could listen. I was listening on my other pair of headphones. I also find it funny that we're only talking about England and Wales. We're not even talking about Australia. So again, like, England's a country that honestly shouldn't have the amount of people it has in it, like, of English people. Like, it's just, they are literally sleeping on top of each other. The way that the amount of people that are in that tiny as fuck island. So that's not even an immigration issue. That's just a matter of like, and also England also sends a lot of people to other. Well, no, they used to when they were part of the EU, but well, yeah. It's just, why are we talking about that shit? I thought we were talking Australia. Why are we not talking about workers? I wanted to talk about workers.
Western society has developed this pathological altruism, as Jared Taylor would call it, where we are so obsessed with the out-group that we are prepared to put our own society at risk to be nice. Suicidal empathy, whatever you want to call it. You know, we have lost the will to question the fundamentals of a healthy society, the rule of law. That's what matters. You know, I've got parents speaking to me, and I ask them to come to the nights, and everyone gets a little bit scared because, you know, and I say, well, you've got 2 children, yes? And I've said this to a number of people, yeah. Are you concerned when they now travel on public transport in the city? And the head goes down, yes, I am actually. And I said, well, why is that? And we all know why. They're concerned about their children getting caught up in the 50% increase in stabbings, according to the Alfred Hospital, in 1 year. 50% increase in stabbings. So they're worried about their children. So what do people do? They insulate. They protect themselves. They say, okay, I'm going to put up, and I'm in the building industry, so I'm working for clients. They put up cameras, increase the fence height, more security. They protect themselves because they feel powerless. Instead of doing, we talk about civic responsibility. The civic responsibility thing to do is peaceful change and to work out what is causing the problem and then push for a solution to the problem. And these are very difficult questions, and questions which I'll if we got time, I'll go into it, how I see the solution. But the fact is we are facing an existential threat as an ethnic group. And I have no problem in trying to advocate for the rights of our forebears, because whether you want to, however you want to frame it, the greatest societies and cultures in the world were built, in my opinion, and perhaps I'm biased, by people of European descent. And if you say that you're called a white supremacist, but let's just throw the narrative back on its head. Perhaps the white supremacists are the ones who come from other countries and move to countries who were built by people of European descent. The person who comes from South Sudan, why do they move to Australia? Why don't they move to Burkina Faso or Nigeria? They move to Australia because the infrastructure, the culture, the living standards are among the highest in the world. So they move to this country. So fundamental question, why do they move to countries built by European peoples? And, you know, this narrative of we're all immigrants, I challenge that, because this country was founded by people of European descent. And I regard peak Australia as 1972. For the first 184 years, was built by the likes of the men in that image behind me. And I spent 2 days in Avenel over Christmas. And I like to go to the war memorials. And I did a reel on this. And the war memorial at Avenel, and it's very sobering, because they put the names of those who served and the names of those who made the ultimate sacrifice who never came back. I looked at the census of Avenel. In 1921, there were 488 people living in the township of Avenel. On the war memorial is the names of 45 men who served in the Great War. So if you do the demographic breakdown, there would be 60 to 70 young men of fighting age in Avenel in 1914. 45 enlisted, 2/3. Of those 45, 20 died. 20 young men. They would have been the railway builders, farmers, supplying the food for Melbourne, engineers, consultants, gone forever. The men who built this country and died for this country are now memorialised on that plaque in Avenel, and that's what drives me, because we have a responsibility to those men, I believe, to protect the legacy that they built and that they were prepared to die for. And they were lied to. That is what is heartbreaking. My mother called it the sacrifice of the flower of a nation's youth. My mother used to be at home when her father, my grandfather, would have the shrapnel cut out of his back from having his left leg blown off in the trenches at Gallipoli in World War I. So I have a family connection that it's really important to me. My father's father spent 3 years in the trenches of France, watched his brothers in arms drown in their own blood at places like Villers-Bretonneux, Hamel, Pas-de-Calais, Zonnebeek, the Somme, Ypres. You know, the 61,678 young men in a 4-year period that never returned. That is why I am active. No, I can't accept what's happening. It's intolerable.
Yeah. No, that's very honourable reason. So good on you, mate. And I think they deserve, their legacy deserves to be respected and to live on through us and into the future generations. You know, they, as you say, they died for that legacy and that ideology and that.
Well,
You know,
they
this
died.
nation. So
they died in the belief that they were fighting for their own safety. Again, that they were misled. When I've been to the battlefields of France and I stood there in absolute dismay at the sacrifice for nothing. You know, in 1914, Australia had a population of less than 5 million. You know, over 400,000 enlisted, 330,000 embarked overseas, 216,000 were wounded or killed. That's two-thirds. Two-thirds killed or wounded. 61,000 were killed. They lie buried in foreign battlefields. And that was in the belief that they were protecting their children's future. And I often say to myself, how would they react when you have a government, for example, of the absurdity of what's happening, of their children being told that they can change gender? What would those men make of that? We've got government indoctrination of children. Historians will look at this time in absolute dismay. And Voltaire said 300 years ago, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. We have a society where the medical professionals, supposedly the best and brightest, have been told the absolute absurdity of children changing gender and prescribing puberty blockers and gender-affirming hormones and removing the breasts of teenagers. To me, that's an atrocity. And it's paid for
100%
by our taxes. It's covered by the PBS and Medicare. It's insane, mate. And that's why it's become intolerable. And I
think we have to as a people find our identity and figure out a way to just get rid of this evil that exists, you know.
Oh, mate, it's evil 100%. And they talk about multiculturalism. It was never an experiment. It was a deliberate narrative. And
absolutely.
As I said earlier, I would love it if I would like to be able to believe government. And I try and work out why they push this narrative and where it's come from.
So I was listening still. I didn't get to finish what I was supposed to be doing. Oh, I'm almost done. But again, we're no longer still talking about workers, and we're now talking about trans people. What has this got to do with the white worker, the worker, immigration? What the hell are we doing here? And I do love Jesse here being like, "Oh yeah, we gotta get rid of this evil," and that we were talking about the First World War, but we're not. I wonder if we're going to talk about the Second World War and about what that one was about, because I'd be interested to know what he has to say on that. Oh god, there was so much. Oh, sorry, so much bullshit that was being said there. It was hard to keep up. Yeah, I'm just almost done.
And I question what makes a society. Why do people want to move to certain societies? What makes a standard of living, a culture, a high trust society? What makes it? So I do a little bit of research and I look up sociology. Yeah, sociology is the causes and consequences of human behaviour. So I say, okay, this will explain to me why was Melbourne the most livable city in the world? Why does Helsinki have a very high standard? What about Geneva?
Oops.
What made London
tripped over
the greatest society on earth? And I look back at the founders of, the fathers of sociology, and I did a little bit of reading on a guy, a Frenchman called Auguste Comte, and this is from 200 years ago, early 1800s. And he's the father of sociology and positivism. And positivism, it assumes that there are truths about a society that can be discovered through scientific studies, and that our understanding of society should be based on data and evidence. Fairly straightforward stuff to me, which our government has moved away from. And Kumte said that the dead govern the living, which is what he means is that society progresses through an accumulation of knowledge and inheritable characteristics. We are just the result of thousands of years of, well, it's our bloodline, you know?
Yeah, intergenerational knowledge.
And what makes societies different from another? And people get caught up because they start to say, oh, well, they're disadvantaged because of colonisation. So let's compare three countries that were never colonised. We look at Ethiopia, Liberia, and Japan. So Liberia was never colonised. They actually, they used the Constitution of the United States. They have only 11% of Liberia has sanitation. Ethiopia, very same. They have a very poor standard of living. They have low sanitation. Never colonised. There was 5 years in World War II where Italy was involved, but they were never colonised. Yeah. Then you look at Japan, never colonised. You have 99.5% of people have access to sanitation. They have one of the lowest crime rates in the world. They are a very high trust society.
Yeah. And a massive population too for a small area.
Massive population. So what makes those societies different? Because this is where people get caught up and they say, well, no, we're all the same. And what I try to explain to people, and it gets very difficult, because to me, the most important issue when we're talking about what makes a society is to take away the anecdotal and the personal. Yes, you have to look at society as a macro. Yeah, you have to look at what makes a society, which is what August Kumte was talking about. Kumte said that the only real life is the collective life of the race. The individual life has no existence except as an abstraction. And that seems to be quite confronting, because what does that mean? My life is not worth anything. And in the micro, it's not. It is the macro, it is the societal level that governs a standard of living. The other founder of sociology was an Englishman called Herbert Spencer. And he said that society is an organism, and we are just cells in the organism that contribute to the functioning of the organism. So you have to take out the anecdotal and the individual and look at society as a whole. What makes Japan a safe, high trust society? It is the organism of the Japanese people.
Oh God! Of course he went to Japan to be the example he'd go off. Japan's not a high trust society because they're all Japanese. I mean, I don't even know if you would really consider Japan a high trust society necessarily. They've gone through a lot of awkward fucking like cultural, like gender stuff at the moment.
What makes Liberia has a GDP average of less than $1,000 per US. Very poor country, very poor sanitation. And I've got no problem with that, but you need to understand what drives that.
What drives
it? The
it?
truth is that different societies, different ethnic groups perform differently.
Oh.
They have different behaviours.
Do they?
Different performances.
Really?
And when I have this conversation with people, they get...
Now, he mentioned how Liberia, I was listening, he mentioned how Liberia, what was it? They didn't get their own constitution because they took it from the Americans. The reason why is because they were, from what I remember, it was escaped slaves who then went to Liberia and then awkwardly also enslaved the natives there. So like, I feel like we're skipping over a little bit of nuance and like what actually happened as to why apparently as an organism they're not very productive or whatever shit it is.
they get very defensive and say, well, perhaps in a physical sense, but not at a cognitive level. Because this is the confronting thing. When you look at why certain ethnic groups commit crimes at a higher rate, is because they perform differently. They behave differently as a macro. As an organism,
macro.
They perform differently. And that's the simple, well, it's not simple. It's really difficult to try and
he's trying really hard to say he's just spouting actual race science now. This is insane. No, literally, that is what is going on right now. But it's funny because he kind of, whether it's like a conscious effort or just like he's struggling to interpret this, but his brain is at least going like, hey man, what you're saying right now is kind of crazy and it's kind of bullshit, and there is no factual evidence to support this at all whatsoever. And so he's sort of like, yeah, I'm trying to find a way to word this right, but it's like, bro, it's as simple as you're just racist. You're just a racist. And like, I like to always say, like, you're just racist. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there is, but like on its own, right now in this little vacuum of a moment, that's what's just going on. Just admit it. Just accept it, bro. Just say that. There's no shame in that. There is actually a lot of shame in it, but there is no shame in admitting it. Well, I guess there is, but like, why can't we just be like more like the Japanese?
Without becoming too esoteric.
But people say that it's not all of them, and I feel
it's not all of them. I love when they start preempting.
That's not the
racism.
point of when people say, they bring up you're dealing in facts right now. There's no two ways about it. And when they say, oh yeah, but it's not all of them. But that kind of, it's like that's not the point, because it's as an organism, you say,
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying.
Do you understand? You know the bell curve?
Yeah.
The bell curve is what defines a society. Yeah. So the bell curve, and again, there are science.
Using the literal fucking bell curve as a reference. Oh my god. Okay, this guy didn't just start doing this, like, what did he say, like 5 years? He implied that he only just started doing this because of COVID. I don't know, Mo. Like, the bell curve was something from, like, either the late 90s or early 2000s. I can't remember exactly. That's a long ago thing, and also he's been doing the whole, like, anti-Whitlam shit.
If you go back to Comte, there are scientific studies that illustrate this. But when you bring them up, and those people, and there's been books going back to 1962. Arthur Jensen was did a Harvard Political Review, because they were noticing that there were differences in academic performances in America. So he did a study on how to improve the academic performances of certain ethnic groups, and this is facts. And what I say, the truth is not hate speech. Yeah, the truth can be quite confronting, but the truth is not hate speech. And until we as a society are prepared to address the truth of what makes different performance levels in society, we will keep watching our societies be destroyed. So Arthur Jensen wrote a study, and it was how we improve the IQ standards in the scholastic arena. And it talks about the bell curve, and his conclusion was that performance is 80% hereditary, yeah, and 20% environmental. And there are numerous studies over the years that back this up. You've got Philip Rushton from France, who wrote a book on race evolution and performance. There's a book called The Bell Curve by Herrnstein and Murray, 1994. It goes into...
The IQ is a real thing with the bell curve. I think he does. No worries, brother. I hope you have a great time in your behavioral science class. Have a good one. But yeah, no, I think he might actually think that what he's saying is true. I think he believes this stuff. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell, like if they believe in it or if they're just saying it just for the clicks and all that shit. But I think this one believes in it.
Into
He's old
detail
enough.
about how the bell curve defines what a society is. If you have a group of people and they commit crimes at an average that are a standard deviation to the left of the norm of, just say you have a bell curve of those living in Australia in 1975. And if you bring in a group of people where they have, according to the data and evidence, a higher crime rate, that affects your society. That changes the very fabric of it. And what's fascinating to watch is how anyone who questions this is cancelled, as they tried to do to me. And this goes back to DNA. And I don't know if we want to go down this track because it's very involved. DNA is,
DNA. Oh shit.
The man who knows more about DNA than anyone else is a man called Dr. James Watson. He wanted.
Dr. James Watson. That sounds familiar. Hang on. It's Watson, molecular biologist, geneticist. Okay, so the guy who discovered, like, who did the whole DNA thing. Yep. Okay, I would assume so. He was then so until he resigned after making comments claiming that there is an link between intelligence and race. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that a guy who was born in where was his born? Born in 1928, despite being smart enough to at least just figure out DNA, was still dumb enough to genuinely think that there's some sort of actual connection between race and intelligence. So that's not surprising.
A Nobel Prize for
not James
discovering the double
Watson.
helix of DNA. He knows more about DNA and inherited characteristics than any man on earth. Yeah.
Truly.
He made a statement in 2007 that different ethnic groups perform differently, and he was cancelled. He had his award stripped off him for simply stating the fact that different ethnic groups perform differently. He was cancelled. To me, it's unbelievable. And I've had conversations with people. And I say,
it happens in athletics as well. Different ethnic groups perform differently. Is that racist too? You know, where does that start then?
Oh wow! Oh, is James Watson a genuinely horrific man? It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm not familiar with him, and I love now how we're getting Jesse talking about the the blacks being good at jumping and running.
That's where people get caught up. Because I had this conversation. I said, well, let's look at America. The NBA is 70% African American. Yeah. So 13% of the population, they are vastly overrepresented. And I said to this young guy, why is that? And he said, oh, they're more athletic. I said, okay, I agree. They perform differently, yes. The NFL is 53% African American, overrepresented by a factor of 4. Why is that? Oh, they're stronger and faster. Okay. So then I said to him, do you then relate that to a performance level in other parts of society? Do you agree that some ethnic groups commit crimes at a higher rate? And he looked at me and he said, well, no, I don't agree. I said, okay, please, would you explain to me why? And he said, well, at a cognitive level, it's environment and learning. They can learn not to commit crimes. And I would like that to be true. But the data and the evidence states otherwise. You have to accept that performance is, well, as
he's having some trouble getting this whole thing out. Jesus Christ. So I'm just trying to let them actually have time to speak, because this is for a long time. Yeah.
Considered it's 80% inheritable. And then you have to understand why we got to the point where people say, and the narrative over the last couple of decades has been that race is a social construct. I don't know if you've heard that, yeah? And unfortunately, the reality is that society is a racial construct, because this race as a social construct was introduced by a man called Franz Boas, who was regarded as the father of American anthropology. And he rejected Darwin, Comte, Spencer. He rejected all the evidence-based studies on this. And he said that society is learning and environment.
Oh,
and
right,
then
of course.
by the early 1900s, 1913, 15, he'd put all of his students into positions of power in American anthropological society. So by the late 1920s, every anthropological school in America had a Boas student running the department. So they pushed that narrative about that it's a race as a social construct, and it's not. People perform differently because of environment, and that's, unfortunately, it's not the way things are. I would like it to be the truth. I would like human beings to not be tribal. I would like that we all get on the same, but it's you cannot deny the natural order of things.
Well,
Blaming it on their ethnicity is such a cop-out and a completely ahistorical, unfounded claim. Yeah, 100%. I know. It's all of the... notice how it's all of the most convenient cherry-picking of information and the most convenient leaving out of every other bit of information, which is like 99.9% of the information. So, yeah. It's... I don't think I'm gonna have the time to be able to get through this whole thing, man. This is gonna be
well,
it's gonna be
and the longer
difficult.
we do deny it, our people can keep their head in the sands, but
We can.
we're just going to go extinct if people don't actually wake up and start doing something about it. Because I think, was that the same guy who coined the term melting pot? Is that the same person you were just talking about?
No, that
It's
wasn't.
we're not going to exist. I think people don't know that our race is, I think, less than 10%, or at least whites are less than 10% of the actual global population.
Yeah, the figures on that. When I was born, and again, I'm a bit older than you. When I was born, people of European descent were about, depending on your source, between 20 and 30% of the global population. Yeah, 20 to 30%.
I don't know if that's true. I know where this is going though. It's going towards and now we're like, I don't know, 5% or whatever, which again brings up who cares?
Fast forward to today. Yeah, we are, depending on your source, between 7 and 10% of the global population.
Oh, yeah, I was lowballing it.
On current birth rates, by the year 2100.
But we seem really focused on fucking over all of the non-whites and not really all that focused on trying to get people who are white into a secure enough situation or whatever where they would want to, or create a world where people would actually feel the want to have children. So that requires effort. So we're just going to stick with fucking over the non-whites.
We're talking 75 years. People of European descent will be 3 to 4% of the global population if the current birth rate continues. As you would have seen in the news, whites having less than 1.5 babies per woman. When I was born, the population of Africa when I was born was 283 million. The population of Africa today is 1.5 billion. The population of Africa in 2050 will be 2.5 billion, in 2100 4.2 billion. Now, if that was sustainable, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But unfortunately, that's not sustainable. We're heading towards a Malthusian catastrophe where we...
Oh yeah, side note before we go, we're getting another comment.
Where food production is linear, but population is exponential.
Yeah, and they're bringing them to our countries and then calling them a minority in our country. even though.
Well, they are a minority in this country. People.
Global.
Yeah, hang on. If white people are good at some things, black people other things, Asian people, etc., then wouldn't you want everyone to live multiculturally so we get the best of everything? That's another thing. They never answer that question exactly. Because if say the Asians are so good with computers, because that tends to be where they lead to, then wouldn't we want to keep the Asians to do the computer stuff? And wouldn't we want black people to do the physical stuff and white people to do like what? The whinging? Like what do we do? Like that's the other thing when it comes down to talking about what we're actually good at. You know, us white brethren. All they have to say is the vaguest shit ever, like, oh yeah, we're good at building society. Okay, but what does that involve? What does that actually mean? Oh, we're good at building houses or something? Okay. Well, wouldn't you want the most physically capable to do that? And according to you, that's black people. It just doesn't make sense. Oh wow, it doesn't make sense.
We're the minority by far.
Yes.
So yeah, it's
People
just
of 17%,
crazy.
Yeah, internationally, globally, not in this country.
Are the minority, and you've heard the term the frog in the boiling pot. We are. This is not a black pill, yeah. The reason I do what I do is because I have faith that we will preserve our heritage and our culture and our people. We have to, because well, yeah, it's just that's why I'm not down about it, but it's confronting stuff. When you look at, you start to understand what happens when we lose the voting rights. You know, and we can see that happening within perhaps the generation, as you said earlier. Australia is currently 30% foreign born. If you include the second generation, we're 51.
Because Australia has never at any point beforehand been, majority, had a significant minority of people that were born from overseas. We've never had that. That is a fairly unique thing now. That is, dude, like we were literally like shipping people over to this country from Europe after the Second World War. After the Brits discovered this place, they were shipping more and more prisoners from the British country, British, I don't know, Isles or whatever, into this country. Like, please make this make sense to me.
5% foreign born, first generation and second generation. Yes, my father was living in Dandenong. He passed away 5 years ago, and there are so many layers to this. But just as an example of Dandenong, yeah, he was in Dandenong Hospitals in palliative care. Dandenong is 72% foreign born, and if
I'm aware of Dandenong.
Yeah, and if the government narrative was correct, I wouldn't care about that. If we all integrated and we were fine, I wouldn't care about that. But he was in a palliative ward. He was one of 6 men. Now, I mentioned my father paid taxes for 70 years. Yeah.
That is a really important point too, by the way. The fact that his father paid tax for 70 whatever years. That means he gets a say over who can and can't come into the country. Like, personally, he gets to... His dad, Matt Treehy's dad or whatever, gets to stand at, like, the immigration customs line and just goes, yep, you can come in. No, you can't. You can. You can't. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. He contributed his whole life to this country. He employed young men. He taught young men. His father nearly died for the country. His father was the horse breaker from Queensland, comes from nothing. Yeah. My father's dying in Dandenong Hospital palliative care. The other 6 men in that ward, not one of them spoke English. So I'm in there and I'm getting a little bit frustrated. I'm thinking, well, I've got nothing against these men. I would do the same, because where they came from, whether it's Cambodia, China, Indonesia, Africa, they didn't have, these men were taking advantage of the best healthcare system in the world, yeah? But they didn't pay for it because they did not speak English. And there are so many layers to that, because it gets back to our current democratic system of, let's just talk about the voting system. The biggest beef I have is because these men in this pallet of ward had voting rights, yes? They didn't speak English. To me, there's two major flaws with the democratic system, which is why, in my opinion, we have to have a reset from the bottom up. The whole system's got to go, yeah? I've got no faith in the current democratic system, which, again, it's confronting, and we're fighting an absolute fucking monster, yeah? But the whole system's got to go, because you have men with voting rights who don't speak English. We had the local council elections 3 weeks ago in Melbourne, or 4 weeks ago. The voting slip was mailed out to me in 42 different languages. The biggest failure in democracy, in my opinion, is one man, one vote, the universal suffrage, one person, one vote. Universal suffrage has failed. Now, I'm not talking about universal suffrage on a gender basis. The most important role of a citizen, in my opinion, is the selection of government, the right to vote. And the fact that these men had the same right as my father to vote, because they were not educated. The only way a democratic system works is if the voting citizen bloc are educated. And this goes back 2,000 years. We talk about democracy as if it's omnipresent. It's always been here. Yes, when I was young, I thought democracy's been around for thousands of years. Democracy's been around in its current form. The first was the American Republic of 1789. Prior to that, it's 2,000 years to the Athenian democracy, which is regarded as the model of democracy it's founded on. You know, democracy, demos, people, kratos, power, power to the people. You know, the Greeks showed us democracy, which they did. Yeah. Let's look at who had the voting rights in Greece.
Right now, we're going through our cute little, like, we can just now talk about whatever. Like, we can just talk about cool little things that happened in ancient history, and now it's like it doesn't have any impact on now. So, like, for Jesse, this is like being like the kid in the front of class for like the special interest guest to come in and talk about, I guess, ancient Greece now. So, I don't know. That's cute, I guess. When do we get back to workers? Like, oh my God. I wanted to know about worker shit. I mean, I guess I kind of knew this was going to always just come down to immigration, but I don't know.
107 BC. You had males over 20 who'd served in the military from 2 Athenian parents and a good character. You had 10% of the population voted.
Even the early days in the US was the same. I believe it was very few people voted.
7%. In 1781, 7 to 8% of the population voted. It was white males over 21. Now, whether that...
Well, that is also, yeah. I wonder why that was. It wasn't because they everyone else was allowed to but chose not to. It was because they weren't allowed to.
That's a good or bad thing. That's a separate moral question. But democracies that had prospered have not had universal suffrage because it's simply...
Then they're not democracies. Like, I can't even be bothered trying to explain whether or not, like, is democracy good for a society's development or whatever versus, like, I don't know, authoritarian rule or whatever. I can't be fucked right now. But, like, that's not a democracy then. I'm sorry, but you can't claim that. I don't even know what I'm arguing against anymore. This has derailed into so many side topics. It's like... This has gone into so much depth of character that you, like, when you get this from, like, a video game, like an RPG video game that you're playing, it makes you realize, oh, wow, they really did put some effort into this. He's got a whole backstory. He's got a whole side interest. That's cute.
It doesn't work. And we can see that today because people will vote for what's in their best interests. They will vote for whoever promises them the greatest largesse. Yeah? If I'm coming out from a war-torn country, I'll vote for the government that allows the contributory parent visa so I can bring my parents out who've never paid taxes in this country. And exactly. That's what people don't realise. when I talk about data,
it's disenfranchising real voters, real Australians with whose ancestors built this country, and that's the thing. These people they buy up properties in electorates and flood electorates with their ethnicity. As you say, it's very tribal. That they act in a tribal manner.
Very tribal.
Which is why, and that's where representative democracy, the two-party preferential voting has failed. Because, I mean, I think people know this. Albanese got 32% of the vote. Daniel Andrews never had over 50%. Since 1945, the federal elections have been 29. 3 times has the government that has obtained power had more than 50% of the vote. The last time was Malcolm Fraser in 1975 with 53%. You've got to go back to Menzies in 1951 prior to that. So we have people getting power who don't have a mandate.
Okay, I mean, okay. Hang on. So again, this is going to be another one of those problems where you're hearing truthful statements coming out of a untruthful person, where like, yeah, to some extent, I guess you could argue that Albanese or previous leaders, actually, I'd argue definitely the previous leaders before Albanese, not even considering Alberto at the moment, but like, ScoMo to Turnbull to Abbott, they didn't have mandates. The closest thing they had to a mandate, like a public mandate, was basically like, please just don't do what Labor have been doing. And for better and for worse, that I guess they did that until they did exactly what Labor were doing, which was, the whole backstabbing their leaders thing. So I don't know. Because the thing is, when he talks about a mandate, I think he's just saying, like, yeah, from the white people or whatever.
That's another problem with the democratic system. The referendum shows that the people can have a say if you have a double majority and a majority of the states in a direct democracy, but it requires constitutional change to a system where only those who know the rule of law, who know the history of the culture, and are invested in society have a say in the future of the society. And if you go back to, I talk about the Athenian democracy quite a bit, because Athenian democracy was 180 years. And that gave us
and a long time ago.
Socrates, some of the arguably the greatest philosophical minds of the last 2,000 years. From the Athenian democracy period, all three rejected democracy. All three. Aristotle believed that a merit-based aristocracy worked better. Plato believed that the average citizen didn't have the capacity to vote, and democracy led to demagogues, which I think you can look at that's been borne out today. But Socrates was the most interesting. Socrates compared.
Oh, here we go.
Voting to, say you put up, he called it the sweet shop owner and the doctor. The sweet shop owner promises the voters the sweet tasting of the nice food. The doctor says, well, I can heal you, but it's going to be some pain involved. The natural instinct of the voter is to vote for the sweet shop owner, even though he has no long-term plan. Socrates compared democracy to, he said, it's the equivalent of giving citizens the right to be in charge of the trireme, the Athenian warship sailing off the Samos in a storm. They're not equipped to vote. So.
Okay, so as someone who is a fan of at least the Socratic method of just ask why, I have a feeling Socrates would have probably been meaning that, like, in the time, and he would have been saying the same thing now, people aren't equipped to vote. Does that necessarily mean that democracy is bad, though? Because, like, it's one of those matters of, like, the ideal of democracy is, well, ideal and good and something we should always strive for. Meanwhile, yeah, I guess you could always say, like, yeah, voters are not very ill-equipped, but, well, I guess we'll get a conclusion.
Socrates devoted his life to educating the voters in Athens, and he was put to death for it. He was charged with sedition and treason and put.
Okay, I can see where this is going. So then it's like, it's funny because it literally his whole thing about, like, the sweet shop and the doctor and the voters will pick short-term short-term interests over long-term like projects, whatever, is literally the problem that we have, where these guys want short-term gratification with getting rid of immigration, and they're not at all interested in the long-term project towards like developing our society. Like they're against ever building shit or paying for it, I guess. So like, I don't know. I feel like you're on the wrong side of things here, bro.
To death, he had to drink the hemlock. You come
Yeah,
forward 2,000 years, you have the limited democracy you've got now, and that has very slowly been chipped away to the point where we have people of the caliber of...
To where we have known white people claiming that we can vote for them. Oh! How dare they?
Jackie Lambie having control of our future. Anthony Albanese. You know, in America, you've got someone like Joe Biden who's cognitively impaired.
Yeah, well, here we have, wait, because this was, yeah, because was this still in, bro, this was streamed on January 21st. Mate, he was gone then. There was no more of him. He was gone. He left. It was literally the day before. The day before, he quit. And if, you know, being in Australia, you know, would have been the same time.
In control
the day before,
of the most powerful country on earth. And I'll touch on another of my beefs with democracy. And all this was on the...
My beefs with democracy. You know. I'll tell you one thing, democracy. You're a hard lass to hate. But here's my issues with you. Here's my bones to pick with
democracy, we have to remove political donations.
Oh,
American
I
just
agree with that.
They just elected Trump, yeah?
Oh, fuck, we're going to get an ad, apparently.
On both sides.
Can we not? Can we escape it? Can we escape the ad?
The politics,
yes.
The political funding in the last American campaign was $16 billion. So both sides are captured, yeah? Elon Musk gave Trump $265 million, yeah? $265 million. Miriam Adelson gave Trump $105 million. So Trump is captured, even though he's talking about doing good things. But Miriam can say to Don, listen, Donald, you know, just remember, I gave you 105. Oh, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind just sorting out my friends in this, you know? Elon can say, Donald, I know you're supposed independent, but I'll give you 265 million. Can we look at put some government funds into going to Mars, you know?
It's funny because there's old tweets from Trump actually calling out politicians who get money from the Adelsons. So it's a bit disappointing that he didn't do that, to be honest.
Oh, we're having some disapproval of Trump. I mean, I guess it's easy to do that when you're in Australia.
105 million he got from Miriam Adelson. 105 million.
Yeah. The Jews. Exactly. That's where, I fucking knew it. We're not Nazis, but we're the National Workers Alliance, and we are a little suspicious of the Jews. Brother, just say it.
But 16 billion. 16 billion. So how can you possibly expect to have a fair election result? And we've got the same thing here. We're not as far down the track, but in Australia, it was in the last election campaign, 2022-23, it was 259 million they got. $259 million from interest groups going to people like Peter Dutton, Anthony Albanese. So of course they're corrupted. You cannot have a fair democratic process where you have political donations. And Australia allows political donations from overseas. We're one of the few countries that do. Overseas sovereign nations, hedge funds, are funding Australian elections. The unions are the biggest. It's insane, mate. But that's why the system has got to be from the ground up. It's all got to go, and that's just people say, it's too hard. I give up. So okay, so we can say, and I'll say this again, this is just my perspective on things. I try to work out why we're in the situation, and my conclusion is they've all got to go. The whole lot have to go.
Whole lot got to go.
The whole system has to go.
Whole system.
And what I'm hoping to do, which may be a forlorn hope, is to build an organisation outside the political system, outside the union movement, the corporations, who are all corrupted. They are all paid off, every single one.
Yeah.
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 The fact the unions did nothing over COVID broke my heart. You know.
What did you think what did they need to do? What did you think they had to do?
Oh, tradesmen crying out for someone to stand up for them when the government shutting us down based on no evidence, shutting us down based on nothing.
There we go.
And the unions played along. Anyway, so I'm just trying to get something outside the movement to gain a critical mass to eventually bring change. And whether that's, we're talking about generations of decay. So it might take generations to rebuild. I don't care.
Again, all of the issues that they're referring to, like actual real world issues that they're referring to, like I guess things that they consider to be consequences of all of the diversity, is you can really trace it back to money more than anything. It's really because there's a profit incentive to everything. And but they are just incapable, and they refer to it sometimes. They kind of imply it at points, like they'll say like, oh, you know, that they're all corrupt, you know, the unions, the corporations, the governments, they're all corrupt, the politicians, I guess, you know, they're all corrupt. And it's like, okay, yep, there's definitely truth to this. And they're all in it for money. Yep, okay, yeah. But then we don't want to talk about the money. We don't want to talk about the money. We want to talk about the minorities. I just don't get it, man. It like I do and I don't.
I don't care if I plant the seed of a tree I'll never sit in the shade of. I just...
Okay, George Washington.
I cannot accept people like Anthony Albanese telling me what my son's going to... the future for my son. I despise the man. You know, Fatima Payment at 0.1% of the vote has control of the Senate. You know, her with the minor parties. You can't accept that. You can't accept that.
So what's it? It really does show that they don't really have a cohesive or like coherent more so idea of what they think the system should be, because like you were saying before about like, you know, oh, it should be a reflection of the will of the people or some shit like that, and you know, public mandate this, public mandate that, and then he was saying like, oh, but it doesn't all work, so like I'm gonna create a system on the outside of it, all of it, because it's all corrupt. And what was he saying now? I sort of blanked out.
Fatima Payment at 0.1% of the vote has control of the Senate. You know, her with the minor parties.
Oh yeah, and now it's the minor parties' fault. Like who's a hero to you, man? Do you just hate everyone? Everyone sucks. Everyone absolutely sucks. I mean, I've met many of these kinds of guys before where it's just everything is horrible, and it's just like everyone is out to get you. Everyone is the worst. But then like it's all politicized. It's all politicized. It's not like personalized. It's not like, you know, like they're all out to get to screw you over, like to take your money or whatever. No, it's all like the government, corporations, unions. It's all August.
You can't accept that. You can't accept that.
No, and they're just so blatantly un-Australian.
But 0.1% of the vote, it's not democracy, mate. But
0.1. Wait, what are you talking about? What does this mean? Do you mean like they got 0.1% of the vote above 50? Therefore, they had the majority? Because, I mean, that's how that works. Again, these people don't believe in democracy at all.
You've got Lydia Thorpe, you've got... Oh, mate.
Oh, yeah.
We are governed...
Hate her.
...by absolute traitors. And I don't say that lightly, because high treason is one of the most serious crimes that a citizen can commit. Yeah.
Oh,
high treason is the committing of a crime that seriously threatens the security or safety of your nation.
I feel like I could think of a few things that the NSN and Thomas Sowell have done that you could consider to be like that. So traitors. I don't know about these people so much. I mean, maybe, like, yeah, I guess there's something, but I don't know if traitor is really the term I would use.
Disloyalty or treachery to your country or government. Yeah, that's what high treason is. In America, it's the death penalty. In Australia, it's life imprisonment. Yeah. There is no doubt in my mind that if we were a true, just, fair society, Daniel Andrews would be in prison.
What?
Gough Whitlam, who was lionised by the left, is the greatest traitor this country has ever seen. And I lived through it. I watched it.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna assume that photo that we saw before of we presumably was him as an MMA fighter, definitely. Because if he's like 66 or something years old, like he's 100%, yeah. Because what again, Whitlam was like 55 years ago now, so if he lived through it, kind of shit, and he's this vehemently racist.
But we now know what he did. Gough Whitlam, and I read his speeches last night because I wanted to find out whether he told the people what he was intending to do. I read his 1972 speech and his 1975 speech, 74 speech. In 1972, he said he was going to lower the voting age, and he was talking about introducing Medibank. In 1974, he said he was going to introduce Medibank, and he talked about incidentals and all very libertarian. I don't know if you were of the Fabian Society.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Gough Whitlam was the member of the Fabian Society. Yeah? He was president of the Fabian Society, and he said he wasn't going to use gradualism. He was going to break through. So a member of the Fabian Society obtained government in this country. Yeah? 1972, he lowered the voting age, which enabled him to get elected in 74. Prior to 1974, you had to be 21 to vote. Gough Whitlam lowered that. And personally, I think you don't mature until in your 20s.
I mean, I do kind of agree with that, but I actually agree in the opposite direction somewhat with the voting.
I think that it shouldn't be lowered. I think people change as they grow older. He abolished the death penalty, he abolished national service, which is a rite of passage for young men.
Fuck. That probably explains also why Bob Catter doesn't like him as much. Why Bob Catter doesn't like Whitlam as much. Because he apparently detested him. And Bob Catter had that famous quote of like every 12-year-old boy should have like a gun or know how to use a gun.
Young men used to, and it fosters a sense of national pride. That's all gone. He introduced the Australian Assistance Act, which was expanded welfare. So everything he did wasn't sustainable. He introduced the Student Assistance Act, which gave free education, not sustainable. Then in 1974, he realised that things were going pear-shaped. Yeah? And if I'm going on too long, Bec, just let me know. But I think this to me is the turning point in Australia. The Whitlam era.
Bec, I get it. I get it if you want to turn, if you want to shut me the fuck up right now. But please, this is the crux. This is like when I'm like on a point and I'm like, I've got a point to make, but I've already done 30 different like side branch stories. But it was relevant. It was necessary.
Yeah. So I'll run through why I think Whitlam is the greatest trade this country's ever known.
I want it.
In 1974, he could see the writing on the wall, so he called a double dissolution election. He'd only been in government 17.
Oh, hang on. No, this could be some good content. This is going to be good content. Let's hear it. The reason why. How far does this back go? Okay.
So
the reason why. Now we're getting this. Let me just. Let me just crack out the back. We're getting the reason why. Gough Whitlam is the #1 trader of, I guess, Australia or whatever.
I'll run through why I think Whitlam is the greatest trader this country's ever known. Because in 1974, he could see the writing on the wall, so he called a double dissolution election. He'd only been in government 17 months, but he couldn't get supply through, right? He couldn't get his bills passed. So he called a double dissolution election in 1974, and he got back in with the assistance of the 18 to 21 voters with 49% of the popular vote. Again, didn't have a mandate, yeah? But he still couldn't get his bills through.
Okay, so again, this is something that this guy has done now like a million times. So what he is saying is that Whitlam is a huge traitor because he like devalued a bunch of things that were core to Australia and to, like, I don't know, Australian politics or whatever, like national service, like having to go into the military when you come of age, and what was it, voting age being at 21, because Whitlam brought it down to 18, basically saying that like Whitlam just gave all these things to young people, like he just did it as a way to hold on to power and whatnot. Not that like Whitlam had like a broader political ideology that was driving it. Yeah, and also he kind of forgot to mention that the reason why the bills weren't getting through the government was because there was a bit of fuckery going on because of the Liberal Party. And the Liberal Party was intentionally colluding with people who were, at least, what would you say, in name Labor politicians. They were colluding with them to be a to be a to be a block, to be a barrier to anything Whitlam tried to get done, or Whitlam's Labor government tried to get done.
So he enacted a thing called Section 57 of the Constitution, which was never done before, to allow him to put his acts through Parliament. And I'll tell you what those acts were. But firstly, I want to tell you what he took to the election as a referendum. So,
oh my God, we just can't stick to a single point. I do find it funny that it's like, he did something that's never been done before. He used this to do this. Well, apparently he probably could have. Well, clearly he could have, because it was necessary, and the country had only been alive as like a federated country for like 70 years. You're going to get some new shit happening eventually.
So I'm not sure whether you know, but if you're the government of the day, when they call an election, can introduce referendums and ask the people about what they believe to be important issues, so the people have a say. So in 1974, Gough Whitlam took 4 referendums to the election. The first one was the consolidation of upper and lower house elections, streamlining the electoral process. Not a big deal. It was actually rejected by all 4 referendums were rejected by the people. But he asked the people. He thought that it was important enough to ask the Australian population whether or not we consolidate the upper and lower house elections. The second question was whether people living in the ACT and the Northern Territory should have the right to vote in referendums. And that was knocked back, but it went through in the next referendum 3 years later. Fairly inconsequential, yeah? The third question was they wanted to consolidate the electoral boundaries to represent population size as opposed to geographic size. Possibly a good thing, it was rejected, didn't go through.
I mean, I probably would have been more in favour of it.
The last question was, of the 4 things that he thought were important enough to ask the people
oh, here we go. This is the point
was whether or not the Commonwealth government could fund local councils. Rejected.
Oh, God! Wait, so whether the Commonwealth government could fund
4 referendums. So then, using Section 57 of the Constitution in 1975, he pushed the following acts through. Yeah. Well, one of them he actually asked people. He introduced Medibank. He introduced Medibank in 1975, which, in principle, is a good thing. We should have. Medibank ended up becoming Medicare, which was free education in 1984 with Bob Hawke. And if you want to know how pear-shaped,
I like how it's like, oh well, that one was good though. That thing was good because we all come to now really fucking need it.
Medicare's gone. When Bob Hawke took brought in Medicare in '84, the budget was $2.4, I think, $billion. If you adjust that for inflation, it's about $8 billion today. We are now spending $81 billion on healthcare, including the NHS. That's just a separate issue.
I wonder why that might be. Could it be anything to do with the over time more privatization of our healthcare system? So now less people can more and more people are trying to get by on whatever they can get from Medicare because it's the only thing that they can get because all of the private options are too expensive. Therefore, they sometimes overlook a lot of problems, and then those problems stick around, exasperate, I forget how to say it, and get worse and turn into more life-threatening things, or at least something more expensive. I'm simplifying it a lot, but that's generally how that happens.
So it was not sustainable. He introduced Medibank, was privatised by traders later on. Then he signed us up to the Lima Declaration, which I mentioned earlier. The Lima Declaration was a UN initiative which it had a stated objective of reducing our manufacturing by 30% in the name of global equity, because we're now in this post-World War II. We're all the same. We're a global economy, so we're going to increase the wealth of the third world, and we're going to take out. So we ship our manufacturing overseas.
Yes. I mean, we did also get extremely wealthy and then build other industries because of it, which obviously the capitalists use for themselves.
So the net result of that, when I talk about traders, in the 1960s, manufacturing was 30% of our GDP. It's now less than 6%. So Gough Whitlam thought he had the right, without asking the people, he didn't take the Lima Declaration to a referendum, to ship our manufacturing overseas and take away our children's opportunity to work in manufacturing. We were a manufacturing powerhouse. We built cars, gone with a button plan, aeroplanes, washing machines, dryers, lawnmowers, we had pharmaceuticals, electronics, we had everything here. We were a sustainable country. Thanks to Gough Whitlam, that's gone. That was a UN initiative. He also signed us up to the FATA, which I mentioned earlier, the Foreign Acquisition and Takeover Act. Now, this is massive. The reason that we are competing with foreign buyers in the real estate market is because Gough Whitlam thought that he had the right, without asking the people, to enable foreign entities, citizens, corporations, hedge funds, to purchase Australian assets. 1975. Prior to 1975, a foreigner couldn't purchase any Australian land. Now they're buying it up at, well, if you look at the way...
I'm pretty sure it's a bit more complicated than that. Fuck, man. This is a guy who rambles. And again, we've only just passed the hour mark. We've still got ages to go. I mean, I'm gonna have to head off soon because I gotta go pick someone up. So I don't know how I'm gonna do that.
The way to find is look at the NAB records for foreign purchases. According to the National Bank, 15% of Melbourne property last year was bought by overseas bank accounts. So he sold us off our infrastructure, land, purchases. He also signed us up to not signed us up. He introduced the Racial Discrimination Act. And again, we'll talk about the ethics of course, no one wants any racial discrimination.
No, we wouldn't want any racial discrimination. No, that would be horrible. That would make you a racist. Oh God, I feel like we're only now just getting to the good shit. What's this? Oh, yeah.
But what that did was it removed the racial element from the immigration policy. They started to wind back the they called the White Australia Policy. It was actually called the Immigration Restriction Act from 1901 to 19...
No. Okay, this is getting too good. This is getting too good, and I have to leave soon. So we can't do this. They can't do this to me. I'm gonna put it back a few seconds, and I think I might just leave it there for now because this has already gone for a while. We made it halfway. Oh my God, that really says a lot about how long I take to do this. That's okay. We will, I will continue this later, either tonight, the Savo, or just, I don't know, at some point. I'll figure it out. Okay, what's this? I don't know. I'll get rid of that. Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to this because it's getting good now. Why do you have to do